Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Fitfriends podcast. This is Tabo. I'm chilling with Azzy today. She's
Hi
come to give us
everyone.
she's come to give us some of her expertise when it comes to diet and nutrition. But we want to give people a few minutes to join the live so that they don't miss out on the important information that Azzy has to share with us. Hey
Mm.
Azzy, how are you doing?
Hey Tabo, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good, Azzy. I
Yeah, I'm
really
excited for
appreciate
this
you.
conversation.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming through to give us some time. Let me just tighten my mic here so we can talk and yeah, we can educate the audience on the infamous calorie deficit, right?
Oh
I
yes.
see that I see there are people who've already joined the live. Yeah, please comment and let us know where you're watching from so we can know who's tuned in. I know this is a very big topic. Most of our participants are looking to find out how exactly diet plays a role in their fitness and weight loss goal, right?
Mm.
Azi, I have a question for you. Did you know that 7 out of 10 South African women are obese or overweight?
Yes, all the statistics on overweight and obesity were drilled into my brain from university. It's the statistics are very, very high, specifically for women, also for men, but specifically for women. So it's great that you have this kind of business that you can help people to sustainably lose weight or actually, have a better relationship with food, etc. Because it's very much a need.
Uh-huh. Okay, Kiyo Undungane. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Ki Lungako. I get you pronounce it wrong. How do you pronounce this name, Azi?
Yeah,
Lung
lunga.
or Lungako. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think it's
Lungako says yeah, he says he's watching from he or she, I'm not too sure. Sorry. They say they're watching from Cape Town. So yeah, we got
nice.
people people tuning in. This is a very important topic, today. So yeah, before we take questions from the audience, because I know some of the audience they have nutrition and diet related questions, right? Yeah, here's the Dike lady. She says she's tuning in from Pretoria. Hello, Dike lady. How are you doing?
Hi, hi, hi.
Yeah. So before we go into the topic for today, yeah, tell us a bit about Azi. Azi Kimang Utwakai Azi.
Okay. So I am Azi Azue. I'm a registered dietitian. Um, Originally families from Eastern Cape, but I grew up in Johannesburg, studied at Stellenbosch University, and did my ComServe in Noble, in Eastern Cape, and now I am a corporate dietitian, but I also am very much a nutrition content creator. So I do a lot of things on social media, YouTube, and yeah, I have a very big passion for just nutrition in all the aspects, not just even the weight loss aspects, but also the more clinical things that people might not know about, diabetes and high blood pressure management, etc. So yeah, nutrition is a massive passion of mine, and whenever anyone asks me to come and speak on it, the answer is always give me the time and give me the place, and I'm there. So I'm so happy to
Uh-huh.
be here.
Okay. No, I really appreciate that, Azi. So we want to firstly hear from you. Yeah, we were talking before we went live, and you were telling me a bit about the industry of diet and being a dietitian, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a bit about what exactly does a dietitian do?
Mm. Good question, especially because it is dietitian week this week. So basically, dietitians are the only professionals who can actually do um, preventative nutrition management of chronic diseases. So basically, we work in a lot of hospital settings, clinics, and ICU, burns units. We work with cancer patients, any patients that are in a hospital setting, or anyone who goes to a clinic, who needs any kind of care for their condition. A lot of the time, nutrition plays a role in a lot of chronic conditions. So that's kind of where we also fall into. We also have work in a private setting, so there's a lot of dietitians who have their own practices. That's something that I'm also working on my own outside of working in corporate. But yeah, we also work in corporate. We work in the food industry, helping with product development, making sure that, you know, the label at the back, we're the ones who regulate and make sure that everything there is supposed to be there, because there's specific regulations with regards to what needs to be on labels within the South African context. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that dietitians can do. Lactation specialists, so anyone who is a mother and wants to have more support, breastfeeding, etc. We can help with that, and with babies, children, basically anything that has to do with food. We are there. We're like the go-to professionals to help with that. So yeah, it's a really great, very very broad profession.
Yeah, I that's what I'm picking up from our discussion right now, that it's more nuanced than one can fathom. Or one, we underestimate the role of the dietitian, and yeah, I'm here to learn today myself, and also get a deeper understanding from you, right?
Mm,
So obviously, you know that we run a fitness program and we train people, and diet and nutrition is such a key part of what we do, right?
yeah.
So earlier this week, I had gotten a question from one of our participants, Kitu Metse. She was asking me whether we offer meal prep and or meal plans, right?
Mm,
And I was like, no, no, at the moment we don't, because we don't currently have the capacity from our end to do that, right?
mm.
I want to know from you as a dietitian, someone like that who wants like meal plans, meal preps. I assume you guys assist. And what is the process?
Yes, yeah, we can actually assist if you're looking for a meal plan, but it's a lot more detailed than that. So if you're gonna go and see a dietitian, we look at your entire history in terms of your medical history. If you're on specific medication, we look at all of your measurements. So you'll do not only your weight and your height, you do your body fat percentage. Some even do muscle. They look at how much lean muscle you have and how much fat percentage you have. Um, and then we also look into your biochemistry, so all of your blood values, if you are someone who has those available. But that's more for that's not really what you'll get in a general setting. That's more a hospital setting, that they'll look at your bloods or your iron levels, etc. um, and then we also look at you clinically, because sometimes when you do a full examination of someone, you can actually see whether they have specific nutritional deficiencies, so that any vitamin or mineral deficiencies, um, or any chronic conditions, you can also see by just doing a clinical exam. So we also do that. And then we also look at your diet history. So what you've been eating, what's your general diet intake on a weekday versus the weekend, versus when you go out, maybe with friends and family, versus just a general, what are the general kinds of foods that you tend to eat. So it's very detailed. Um, and then also in your environment, your in terms of how much access you have, like what's your budget, what do you have access to in your household, do you have a stove, do you have a blender, all of those kinds of things, which kind of might seem like not that important, is important for us to know, so that when we do give you a meal plan, we're using what your food preferences are, it's meeting all of your needs nutritionally. So we calculate that as well. After we look at what your diet history is, we calculate what you're getting in now versus what you need to get in order to meet whatever your goals are. So yeah, it's very detailed. But there are general healthy eating guidelines that some dietitians do. Not every dietitian is going to give you a meal plan. Sometimes it's much safer to rather give someone a general healthy eating guideline if they're struggling with any kind of relationship with food, if they have eating disorders and such. So it's a very person by person basis. It's individual. Yeah, it's it's we look at who's in front of us and we deal with that. So if you're in front of me and you're wanting a meal plan and that works, and I see that it's something that won't be harmful, then it'll happen. after going through all of that in a consultation. So that's why a consultation with a dietitian can be up to an hour and a half, the initial one, because you go into so much detail. And then after that, your follow-ups can be like 30, 45 minutes from there, just to keep on checking up to see how you're doing with your goals.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so I wanna push out a question to the audience. We've got some people watching live, tuning in live. I want to hear from them. Do they think they have a good or bad relationship with food? Let's hear their take, right? A lot of people, a lot of people say they have a bad relationship with food, with all the processed foods and so forth. So, yeah, I want to put it out there and find out from them what they think, right? Do they have a good or bad relationship? No judgment. Really, it's about us empowering each other and turning the bad into good, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, I asked you those initial questions just so that everyone tuning in can understand the depth at which a dietitian actually pushes pushes us forward in terms of understanding our nutritional needs as people and how unique it is per person, right? That was very important so
Mm,
that the audience can understand how technical this thing is, right? And then also so
mm,
that when we dive into calorie deficits, people can really understand that um, it might not be for you, it might be for someone else. It's nuanced, this thing, right? But first,
mm.
I want to know from you, what is a calorie deficit?
So calorie deficit is basically you have a basic amount of energy that your body needs just to function, to breathe, to do your daily activities. So when you're in a calorie deficit, you're basically consuming less, but it's a certain portion. There's a certain amount of calorie deficit that is more advised. So you're just eating less, essentially, than you would usually need on average. But
Okay.
it's very very individualized. So a calorie deficit for one person might be 2,000 calories. Another person, it might be 1,700. So it's very individualized. It depends on the person in front of you. Um, yeah.
Okay, and let's talk a bit about the science. I read somewhere where they say this is in essence the best way to lose weight if you induce a calorie deficit, and over time your body should shed its excess weight.
Mm. So you want to know more? Is that what the science really says?
Yes,
Is
is
that
that
your
what the
question?
science really is? Like, from you, I'm trying to understand from your end. Like, is that the science?
It
Okay,
is.
keep going.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry, there's a bit of a delay. Yeah, so the science in general, calorie deficit is the gold standard for weight loss. So it's probably the reason why a lot of people lose weight when they try a lot of diets out there. It's not because of the diet that you're trying, it's because of the calorie deficit that you're in. Um, but it's a lot more nuanced, and your body also has its own internal regulation system. So it's something that constantly needs to change, because when you're initially in calorie deficit, you might, you'll start losing weight, but your calorie deficit might need to change after some time, because you get to a point where your body kind of gets used to that amount of calories. So it's very nuanced, and there's a lot of different ways that you can actually achieve a calorie deficit or achieve weight loss without even a massive calorie deficit. Usually the greatest calorie deficit, it's you don't want more than 500 calories less. 1,000 calorie deficit is way too much. So it's supposed to be a small gradual process that you go through in your body, that you're kind of changing your eating patterns to kind of facilitate being in that deficit.
Okay. Let's head over to the comments before I ask my next question. So here are people responding to the question whether they have a good or bad relationship with food.
Mm,
Yogi says, I think mine is good. Ntlatla
good.
says, bad relationship with food, especially winter and working from home. Yeah,
Oh,
this is
I
this one.
understand.
Yeah, the fridge is right there. DK Lady
Right.
is also like thumbs down. Sombu is also like thumbs down. Uh, Palisa is also like bad eating. Healthy is difficult in my household. That's also another one. That's a big discussion for another day. Where how do we find the right balance in terms of eating healthy, especially if at home uh, the food that they like to eat is not necessarily the best foods, in your opinion. So yeah, I want to find out a bit more because I heard you say that it's not everyone who needs to induce the same type of deficit. How do we identify? How do I identify that? Okay, these are the numbers for me.
It's, I mean, it's something that, to make it simple, you could always ask a dietitian. You could go and
Mm-hmm.
see a dietitian and they calculate it for you, because they calculate your activity level, your resting metabolic rate, so what you need just for your body to, the energy you need for your body to function, and then yeah, taking all of those things into account. Also, there's something called the thermal effect of food. So when we eat, the process of eating, it does use up energy, and creates heat. So that's another thing that goes into you calculating how much calories, or energy that you need. So on top of that, once we've calculated that, we'll also minus. Oh, I think am I still? Are you still
Yeah,
there?
yeah. I've just pushed you full screen. I'm still here.
Oh, okay, great. I just wanted
Uh-huh.
to make sure. So yeah, basically, you can then, once we've calculated your energy needs, then we also can kind of subtract a little bit to induce a calorie deficit. Some people might use those calorie calculators to kind of see how many calories they need. Those are very general. It's, I mean, it's interesting to note if that's something that you want to know about, but it won't necessarily be, always be the most accurate. Sometimes it might induce more of a deficit than you actually need. But yeah, I mean, the way technology is, it's very generic, the kinds of calculators out there. So yeah, I always advocate for going to a professional rather than sitting there and calculating yourself, or yeah.
Okay, I see. So, for anyone watching and they want to induce this calorie deficit so that they can work on their weight loss goal, because obviously we know that it's 80% diet, 20% training. The best advice is for them to consult a dietitian, right? So, what happens if I don't have the budget to do that?
I mean, there's a lot of dietitians who are in public sector. Most bigger public hospitals or clinics have a dietitian, and that's like 50 rand to open a file at most. So there is more affordable ways to see a dietitian. But let's say you're not willing to brave the line and sit the whole day just for that consultation, then definitely trying to implement the plate model is a really nice way. I mean, some people do use like Fitpal and all of those kinds of things, but the plate model is essentially making sure when you look at your plate, you have half a plate of veg, quarter plate of protein, and a quarter plate of starch. That way, because your vegetables are known as a high volume, low energy food, and you're eating so much vegetables and they're lower in energy, you'll end up being in a deficit because you're prioritizing your plates to have more vegetables in them. So
Uh-huh.
that's one way that you can do it, and just making sure the kinds of protein sources you're having are much lower, and your hard fats, amanina, should not be there. Like any hard fats, get rid of them. Enjoy them, but it's not. It shouldn't be a regular thing that you
When
eating.
when you say hard fats, what are like fats that coagulate? Is that the term?
Yeah, yeah. I think. Yeah, it sounds like it might be.
Where it
But
like,
yeah,
yeah,
that,
yeah,
if you look at a piece of meat, there's that white kind of thick layer, like with pork or with red meat. If you buy the stew meat, and there's the little, like, there's the white part when it's still raw. That's the
yeah.
saturated fats. that's the one that you don't want to be eating a lot of, and enjoying it like on that odd occasion.
I
So yeah,
see. I
the
see.
plate model helps a lot. And if you're someone who wants to look at the FitPal and all of those kinds of things, you can, but it might shift your perspective, because there's a lot of foods that are good for us that are a bit high in energy. Like there's healthier fats that are out there that are high in energy, but
Uh-huh.
it's still really good for your health to have those fats, like your avo and your peanut butter and some of your nuts and seeds and things. So yeah, it might make you not want to eat those kinds of foods, or restrict your diet like more. And what I find also is that a lot of people won't put in exactly what they eat onto the app, because they feel like guilty if they ate like chips or whatever. Then you're like, it's fine. I just won't put the chips there. So it ends up not being accurate anyways, because we also don't report, we don't put in the stuff accurately. So yeah,
Yeah.
plate
Yeah.
model is go to.
Okay, so the plate model is the easiest way to actually strike this balance.
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
cool. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna quickly pull up Google so that they can see a visual reference. I'm sure there's something visually that I could share so
Yeah.
that they can see what we're talking about, right? So give me a few seconds. In the meantime, those tuning in, hit us with some questions so that we can take your questions. I see there are some questions already, so hit us with some diet related questions so that I can push them through to Azia and she can respond as best as possible.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Hold
Um,
on. Here we are. I'm about to share the plate model, right?
cool.
Window, Chrome tab. There we go. Yes, there we go. Share. All right. So I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that on your end, Azi?
Yes, I can see it.
Let me go full screen so that they can see. Yeah. So I see here basically it breaks the plate down into quarters, like you're
Yeah.
saying, and you want to fill these quarters with these respective food groups, nah?
Yes.
Okay, so run us through that again. I see here it's meats. I assume it's carbs here, and then it's
Yes.
your greens and leafy vegetables, nah?
Yes. So if you look at the plate model, it starts with the protein. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that you're eating at least a quarter of your plate of, whether it's beans, lentils, chickpeas, um, or chicken, mince, fish. You want to make sure you're having a quarter of your plate of that. Remember, with fish, it has a lot of good, it has anti-inflammatory properties, basically meaning that it gets rid of inflammation, really good for immune health. So you want to make sure you're having fish 3 times a week, especially things like pilchards or tuna. Those are nice budget friendly ones. Or you can go for your trout and your salmon, those kinds of ones, if that allows in your budget. Also, chicken's good. Limit your red meat. Don't have it more than twice a week, or don't have more than 300 grams of red meat a week. And then when it comes to your carbs, um, there's different kinds of carbs. So you have your more refined starch or refined carbs. So that's more processed. That's maybe your white bread. That's your pastas. Um, those can have a place in your diet, definitely, but you always need to try and go for your higher fiber options. And the you can still have your pasta and things, as long as you're pairing it with a lot of vegetables. Then it's at least you're adding that extra fiber that you wouldn't have had. So yeah, you always want to go more for whole grain. That's what we say when it comes to your carbs. And then
Okay.
your, of course, non-starchy veg specifically. So your potatoes, your butternuts, your peas, those are all like your starchy veg. So your non-starchy veg will be more your green leafy veg, broccoli, cauliflower, um, tomato, cucumber, things like that. Those are the ones that you want to fill your plate halfway, and then you know that you're sorted.
Okay. I feel you. Hope everyone is taking notes and assessing their current diet and trying to align with what Azi is sharing right now. From what I'm getting, she's promoting balance. Balance is very important. You need to have all
Mm,
the macros in your
definitely.
diet, everything. So this brings me now to Mag's question here. Uh, I'm on Banting. Is it safe?
So I'm gonna just approach this from a very objective because I can't. It's nothing personal. I'm just gonna tell you what like the science says about banting. So banting is basically high protein, high fat, low carb diet, right? So when you go into any diet that is lower in carbs, your body its main energy source is carbs, so it starts using fat for energy. Now the misconception is that okay, when your body starts using the fat for energy, it's burning fat, it's making you lose weight. But the reality is it's going into starvation mode and it's literally just trying to get any energy as much as it can. So that's what happens when you go into any kind of like paleo banting kind of style, keto also. So where that can be a problem is when you finally are like, oh, you finally decide to have carbs again because it is your body's main energy source. You actually will have high cravings for carbs. So when you finally are like, okay, let me try and go for this craving, you'll find that you'll tend to gain a lot more weight when you decide to start eating carbs again, because the problem with it is it's not sustainable. With regards to safety, um, it really depends on person to person because banting is quite high. And when you look at the profile and the kinds of foods that banters eat, it's a lot of butter, it's a lot of bacon, and those are your saturated and your trans fats, and those are really bad for your heart health. They're bad because they cause a lot of chronic conditions. They cause you to gain weight over time. So um, yeah, if you're someone who is wondering whether it's safe, there still needs to be a lot more science. I mean, there's a lot of side effects that happen when you go into any diet that's lower in carbs. In terms of cravings, you have brain fog, so you struggle to concentrate because your brain uses carbs actually to actually function. So you'll find that you struggle to concentrate. You'll be hangry. You might be cranky. You might struggle also with constipation because carbs has a lot of fiber. So when you stop eating carbs as much, you probably your fiber intake is probably going to go down quite a bit. So those are the kinds of things that might make it not as safe over time. Um, yeah. So let's say you really are pro banting, just make sure that the kinds of fats that you're using are your oily fish. You're using avocado, using nuts and seeds. As your fat sources rather than the butters and the bacon and all of the processed meats, and then just trying to make sure. I mean, there is a little bit. I know some people who ban to do still have a little bit of carbs. It's very, very small amounts, so just try and go for more high fiber options, and with your veg as well, like just pack the veg in there as well. But yeah, it's not something that is necessarily recommended. If the science was like banting is the one, then I would like recommending it to everyone. But unfortunately, that's not really the case at the moment. Um, so yeah, it's not necessarily the safest or most sustainable diet long term. If you're gonna bant, you're gonna have to bant forever, because once you start eating carbs again, you'll gain all the weight back and more. I've had clients who lost 8 kgs and gained 20 when they went back to eating carbs. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's not the most
it's it,
sustainable.
it's shaky.
It's
It's
shaky.
shaky.
It's a bit
Yeah,
shaky.
yeah. No, well, my usual advice is always for people to maintain balance because I know the importance of carbs, right?
Yes.
If you've done endurance sports, you know the importance of carbs as a fuel source. You understand?
Oh,
So
ugh.
yeah, and if you don't have them as a fuel source, you crash, and you crash hard and painfully, right?
Injuries.
Yes.
Injuries.
Uh-huh. So I like that you mentioned hungry because I know that carbs actually affect your mood.
They do.
Yeah, they affect your mood literally. Like
Yeah.
so yeah. I'm also very skeptical around banting. I just think it's marketing, to be honest. It's just
Yes.
someone who was able to push forward their ideology, and yeah, people picked it up, and it's gained in traction. Mind you, Mind you that our anatomy as black people, contrary to other people, what people might believe, but our anatomy as black people is not the same as white people, right? Our diet habits, our nutrition habits cannot be the same because on a cellular level, we are completely different from them. Completely different. That's why even our medicine is completely different from theirs. But most people don't understand on that level, right? Yourself, you and I, we can be the same, but for example, within my bloodline, we are not allowed to eat maybe sheep, for example, right? Because it does something to me. And we understand that about ourselves. So it's very important to understand yourself before diving into any sort of like diet. I think understand yourself, understand within your family unit, within your bloodline, if I can put it like that. It's very important to understand your bloodline because it gives you a lot on what works for you and what doesn't work for you, right?
Yeah, the
I
genetics. There's a lot of links between your genetics and nutrition. I mean, there's dietitians can do this whole scan where they look at your genetics and see, okay, this is the kinds of foods that might be more beneficial, and these are the kinds of vitamins that you might be more likely to be more deficient in. So genetics, there is definitely a genetic component like that's there via nutrition. So yeah, I'm glad that you put that out there, make that people must be aware, and also just listen to your body, because your body tells you a lot of the time what sits well with it and what doesn't. So when you know that you're eating certain foods that don't feel that good, like for example, I don't eat red meat very often because I just feel very tired and heavy after eating red meats. That's just how I feel. This isn't anything like, I'm not giving out any specific nutritional information on it. It's just me knowing my body, knowing that it doesn't make me feel that good, so I don't eat it all the time. So just listen.
Yeah, tune in. Tune in. Here's another question here from Maggie. I also want to know about whether timing of eating meals matters too. I guess this
Uh,
boils back to intermittent fasting as well.
it could, and also
Mhm.
to people who ask about training whilst fasted, or um, if you need to specifically eat a certain amount of food after you've exercised, etc. Um, so timing, it really is it's a person to person basis. It depends on you. If you don't feel like breakfast and you only eat an hour later, that's fine. You don't specifically have to eat it at a certain time. Eat when you feel hungry. If you're someone who struggles with appetite, of course, then it's important to try and have small frequent meals. That's why I say it's a very person specific thing. But no, there's not necessarily timing. The nutrition timing with nutrition is more when you're someone who's in any kind of sports nutrition, where it can be very useful. Making sure that you're, for example, the people who do cycling and stuff, carbo loading and stuff a few days before the race, to make sure you have enough energy stores to get you through, etc. But the nutrition timing for the general everyday person, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I need to eat now. And sometimes I eat at like 11. Like, just listen to your
Mm.
body if you can. And if you struggle to listen to your body, um, just try when you do eat, make it as nutritious as possible.
Okay. Here's the lady. She wants to know, can you advise on examples of good starch? I think we can mix it with this question as well. What are the best carbs other than vegetables? I think we can mix these two questions.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for your question. Dikeledi, I think when it comes to starches, you want fiber. Like, you want any root vegetables. So your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, your butternut, those can be a good form of carbs. They're also a good form of fiber and other different vitamins and minerals depending. Um, and then your when it comes to your breads, there's a lot of different ranges out there. It depends on your budget, but usually anything that says low GI, anything that's very like whole grain, anything that says dumpy seeded, anything where you can see, like, if you look at the fiber, you want it to be a higher fiber option. So those are the good forms of starch when it comes to bread. So bread isn't it's not out of bounds when it comes to good starch. Um, But I guess it also depends on you, because I wouldn't say that a dumpy seeded bread is a good starch to have right before doing a hectic exercise training. Like if you're having a small snack, because it's more fiber, it sits in your stomach longer. So you need something that's going to be quicker, and your brown bread or white bread it's not as heavy for just before you exercise, if you were looking for something lighter. So it really just depends. Like I said, it's person to person. You want to generally go for whole grain starches. When it comes to your pastas, um, there are some whole wheat pastas that are out there, and like chickpea and all of that, but some of them are ridiculously expensive. You can just go for normal pasta and then just add veggies. And in terms of vegetables, you have starchy veg and you have non-starchy veg. So your starchy veg is your root vegetables. It's your so all your potatoes, your butternut, your peas is also more of a starchy veg. Carrots are like an intermediate kind of, but not really. I would say they're more of a non-starchy veg. And then your non-starchy vegetables are like your green leafy vegetables and cucumber, tomato, etc. So yeah, those are the different kinds, and yeah, just need to make sure you incorporate all of them in. But in terms of good starch and bad starch, you can include a variety of kinds of starches in your diet. You can have like you can have pasta, but as long as you're loading your diet with a lot of fiber to compensate when you are having those lower fiber starches, and as long as you're having them a little bit less and trying to have your whole grain starches more, then you know you're in a good place.
Okay, I want to get a bit technical. Is
Okay.
starch, are starches and carbs the same thing?
Um, Carbohydrate, essentially, yeah. It's
Uh huh.
a starch is just this. It's a more general term. I think it's more a common term that people use. But yeah, carbohydrates. I think starches would more refer to things like potatoes and your breads and stuff. But in general, if we speak about carbs, carbs is like sugars. There's different kinds of carbs that are out there and different kinds of sugars. So sugar is a carb, but you wouldn't say sugar is a starch,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So carbohydrates is all of those different kinds of sugars that are out there, because all of our breads, anything that has carbs has a form of sugar. It's just a different kind of sugar that's in it. That's how our body processes it. So yeah, I would think that would be the main difference that I would say.
Okay. Cool. Here's Yugi. She wants to know. So let's say I'm thinking of taking contraceptives, but I don't want to affect my weight. Should I consult a dietitian for that, or they won't give me that advice or the advice I need?
That's a good question. I think it's yeah. There we do a lot of work in terms of women's health. That's a very big part of what we do. So if you're concerned about that, you can always go and see a dietitian, and maybe they can advise on maybe certain contraceptives that have worked better for some of their clients. But again, contraceptives, it's very like any kind of medication. It's very specifically what happens to your body happens to your body. So it might be that you lose weight, might be that you gain weight, might be that you nothing happens at all. Um, so yeah, I think maybe if you are considering wanting to take contraceptives, um, it can be helpful to always just try and make those general changes to your diet, so that it's something that you sustain outside of just taking contraceptives, but just as a general lifestyle change. But yeah, when it comes to contraceptives, anything goes. So yeah, I think definitely consult that dietitian that you'd like to see, and maybe they'll be able to assist you in which ones might have less side effects, um, and then also just help you with just managing your weight on top of that.
Okay. So let's talk a bit about that actually. The whole phenomena around contraceptives and how they, well, push weight gain. Is that really a thing? like weight gain as a result of you being on a contraceptive?
Yes, it can happen. So some people lose a lot of weight and some people gain a lot of weight. So contraceptives do kind of cause a lot of changes in our bodies, and as a woman, we have a lot of our our hormone cycle is very integral to how much energy, etc., that we need. So it's very much linked to how our body functions. So when you are taking contraceptives, your body is going to react differently. So some people do end up gaining weight, um, and some people end up losing weight, and some people nothing happens at all, and they just have severe mood. They struggle with regulating their mood, and some people it regulates their mood better. So it's very different from person to person, how it affects your body chemistry. But yeah, they can cause weight gain, just like there's certain medication that's out there that can cause weight gain. Yeah, contraceptives definitely can cause weight gain.
Okay, I see. Let's switch gears a bit. I see here we have someone celebrating your beauty. Kimang Promzi,
Thank you.
Machek, as you're
Yes.
looking so beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving us some time. Actually, I know it's a cold Thursday night. I really appreciate everyone that's in the comments section making our conversation interesting. You know, making this a very informative Nkareng, platform where we can share and learn from each other. You know, I'm learning a lot from you, Azi. I really appreciate you giving us some time. I see we've got more questions in the comments section. Here's one from Tlantla. Sugar. Most foods contain it. How do we reduce our intake? If we already cut out the actual sugar, juices, etc., do you recommend reading labels?
Um, I think, like I said, it really depends from person to person. Like most foods do contain, most processed foods have added sugar in them to help to have them like have a longer shelf life. And there's different kinds of sugars that are in different like food, like your fruits have fruit sugars called fructose in them, etc. So there's a lot of different kinds of sugars that are out there that naturally are in food. Any kind of carbs have a type of sugar that's different, which is basically going to give your body energy. If you speak specifically speaking about reducing sugar intake itself, um, trying to juices can have a lot of sugar. So if you're going to be going for even 100% juices, just remember that it can have the same and even more sugar. One um, kind of glass of like one of the average orange juices can have up to 9 teaspoons of sugar, where your Coke can have 7 or 8. So it's even though your juices do have some vitamins and minerals, they can definitely be very high in sugar. In terms of reading labels, that is definitely something that you can do. It's a way to inform yourself so that you know what kinds of which specific foods are high in sugar. But I mean, that's something maybe one day that I can try and unpack on my channel or on my Instagram, just so that you know how to read labels, because it is a skill. You won't necessarily know whether something is high in sugar, just as the general average person. Um, so that's something maybe that I can try and do. Just not only sugar, but salt and fats, knowing how to read the label accordingly. Um, but yes, we can all eat less sugar. Trying to limit you don't eat sweets and things like that regularly. Enjoy them on occasion if there's a birthday or something like that that's happening, but it shouldn't be something that you necessarily include all the time. It's not off limits, but it's just you don't eat it all the time at all. It's something you enjoy every now and then. So yeah, do I recommend reading labels? Yes, if you have the knowledge and you know how to. Um, and yeah, I'll definitely look into teaching label reading, because that's very, yeah, we'll be here all day if I was going to go into everything with label reading.
Yeah, it And it's so important because you have to know what you're consuming. You have to know what you're consuming.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. Promzi is switching gears. Obviously, we're talking about calorie deficit and weight loss. She's talking weight gain. Here's a
Okay.
question. I've heard people saying actin helps one gain weight. And would you advise one to consume such pills, or is a nutritional plan better than supplements?
I think any kind of, if you need any kind of supplement, you need to get medical advice. Shouldn't necessarily be something that you take on your own. What exactly is actin? Please, can someone explain that to me?
Let me
Um,
Google it.
yeah, just I don't want to speak on it because I'm actually not sure what it is and what people say about gaining weight. But in terms of whether a nutritional plan is better than supplements, um, it's again depends on the person, depends on whether the person has deficiencies, so if they don't have enough of specific vitamins and minerals, depends on your specific intake. If you enjoy taking like protein powder things and you enjoy taking those kinds of supplements with regards to your like multivitamins or whatever, um, that's also fine. But just be aware that it's better to get advice on how to take those, because when you take them in the day also influences how well they're absorbed. Um, so yeah, food. I'm always food first, and food first slash person first. What you prefer is the person in front of me. That's what we need to go for. But try and go majority food first as well.
Okay. Here we are. I'm about to share the. Hold on. A window on actin. Actin.
That sounds
Okay,
very
here it
good.
is. Yeah, overview of actin tablet is used for allergic conjunctivitis due to inhalant allergens and foods. Cold, can't pronounce this word, urticaria, loss of appetite, perennial and seasonal and allergic rhinitis. Okay, these terms are very hectic. But I see here as I scroll down, you see here's an image even. No, I don't know if you can see it on your end. My weight gain journey plus the Cipla pill. So I see like someone created a YouTube video even got this pill. Jeez. But it seems like this pill is not actually for weight gain, it's for something else, but it
Complete.
induces weight gain.
It might be that that is a side effect of that specific pill. But I can't speak on it. Sorry, Promsy, I'd rather speak on it if I had more, if I know no, more knowledge about it. But I'll definitely look into actin and look at the side effects, etc. Um, but yeah, in terms of weight gain, if you want to gain weight, the easiest ways to go for what we call your high energy, low volume foods. So a lot of your healthy fats, like your oils and your nuts and things like that, your butters, nut butters, um, full cream milks, etc. They're higher in energy, but you can have it in a small amount to the point where you don't necessarily notice you're eating more energy foods. So that's just a general advice for people who want to gain weight, to try and kind of um, make their foods more nutritionally dense, energy higher in energy, and then that'll help with weight gain.
Okay. Cool. I see. Yeah, Azzy, we're about 10 minutes to go up until the end of this episode. Yeah, so I want more questions in the comment section, guys. Ask all your comments. I mean, here's Azi. She's ready to answer all your questions around nutrition and diet. We've already spoken about calorie deficit, but we've come to understand deeper now that it's more nuanced than just saying, "Hey, you're gonna burn more calories than you consume daily," right?
Yeah.
Because that was my initial thinking, that one must burn more than they consume daily. So I've come to learn that it's unique to each and every individual. So ideally, make some time to see a dietitian so that they can do these tests on you. And if you are not in a position to see a dietitian, you can make use of governmental resources. Nah? I heard you say that earlier, that it's not too bad for one to access a dietitian from the government. Kind of we saying it's $50 to open a file, ne?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then
So
wait in the line and you can see the dietitian.
okay, cool. Yeah, so anyone who's really trying to lock down their diet and make sure they eat healthy, make sure they eat in line with their specific goal, right? I actually want to talk a bit about body types. I'm not too sure if you know on this topic. Body types, right? There are three body types: endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, right? And I always advise people I train to align their training and their eating with their body type, right?
Okay.
It's very important because it's very nuanced. An endomorph, needs a diet that's strictly aligned for them as an endomorph, and vice versa if you're an ectomorph or a mesomorph. What's your take on that?
My take is, I mean, I do know that in general we all hold fats differently in our bodies. Some
Uh-huh.
people are able to lose fat a lot quicker. Some hold it for a lot longer. Some might lose it in specific areas. Like it really just depends on person to person. And in regards to the ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph, within my scope of practice and training, it's not something that was emphasized. The general physiology behind fat breakdown and muscle gain is something that was emphasized. So I guess it just depends from person to person how that kind of happens. Some people might find that when they're on their weight loss journey, they lose a lot more in general everywhere. They don't lose it in a targeted area that they would like, and that's because fats break down. Your body doesn't choose necessarily where the fat is going to break down. But I honestly can't speak on ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph because it's not something that was within my scope of training. It wasn't even mentioned once in my 4 years,
Yeah.
which is interesting, but because it's something that's mentioned a lot within the health and wellness space. But yeah, I think I'll definitely do research on that and see like what the nutrition science says about it. Because yeah, I mean, maybe it is something that has to do with body composition, but again, I'd rather not speak on it if I don't
Okay.
have all the information.
No, when we get you back on the podcast again, hopefully by then you'll have, you'll have more details for us to share on this particular topic, Baba.
I know,
Yeah,
Shem. I'll be sorted. I'll make
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I'll make sure to
yeah.
look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kios Pelele, she wants. Sorry for interjecting. You had something to say.
Oh no, it's fine. I was gonna ask if you wanted to speak about meal prepping specifically because I know that that's a question people ask about.
Yes, yes. I almost forgot to dive into meal prep, right? So yeah, like what tips can you advise someone? Because a lot of the time I know that the ladies that we train, basokola, when it comes to meal ideas, meal prep, and just aligning with their goal when it comes to weight loss. Like what's some of the advice as a dietitian that you could give to them on that?
Variety, guys. You don't need to eat broccoli and rice and chicken, dry chicken every day, please. Variety. Whenever I see meal prep, it's always the same thing, and it's like when you're doing the whole process, choose maybe 3 different protein sources for different dinner ideas. So do mince, do chicken, do grilled chicken, do something with fish. Have different protein sources so that there's more variety. So you're not eating the same thing every day, or you at least changing things up. I would also say maybe to save costs via meal prepping, to cook. To try and change it up with vegetables. You don't necessarily need to buy a whole bunch of vegetables. Just buy the ones that you know you're going to finish for the week. If you know to stay alone, you buy a broccoli, you buy a bunch of spinach, you buy a bunch of peppers, and then the next week you buy a different veg, maybe red cabbage. So you keep changing it up so that your body's getting all the different kinds of nutrients and not just broccoli, spinach, but to try and mix it up with whichever is available seasonally, because the more you shop seasonal, it's cheaper, and it's more nutrients. So that's something I'd also say. And also that meal prep doesn't have to be, you see those lunch boxes and it looks so nice. Like, my meal prep doesn't look like that. I literally will cook a big batch of something, freeze a part of it, and then I might end up using it a couple weeks later. It's really, meal prep doesn't, there's no one size fits all approach. It's really just to help you to save time in the kitchen. And to also help you to make better eating decisions. So those are the benefits, I would say, of meal prep for sure. But yeah, you don't need to overcomplicate it. You can meal prep in foods that you do enjoy. For example, if you like having umngqusho, sample beans, you can make that in bulk because that takes so much time to make, and then you freeze half of it and then you take it out when you'd like to, because it's cold. You make a batch of soup, you freeze some of it, and you do that. So like anything, that's the whole point of it, is really just to make life easier. So that's the main benefit, and just better healthy eating decisions, as I've said. So yeah, I just really want to emphasize variety. You can really still eat variety when you're meal prepping. You just need to choose different food sources that you're going to meal prep in that time that you can. You can put one thing in the oven while the other one is on the stove, and then you know that you're grand and you're sorted for the week. And the nice thing about specific food sources, so I have a dietitian colleague and friend who shows you sort of, you can say, okay, have mince 5 ways. So for example, you're going to have mince with brown rice and maybe some kind of mixed vegetables, or you can have it, if you someone who enjoys wraps and that's within your budget, you have it on wraps, or you do mince with you make a cottage pie situation, or you mix the mince into a soup. There's different ways that you can use those specific staples, like those protein staples that you make when you're meal prepping. So I also encourage that, so that it doesn't feel like you're eating the same thing over and over. Just being creative with those specific sources also helps like a lot. So yeah, that's what that's what I would definitely encourage, because yeah, you need to still enjoy your food. Eating healthy doesn't have to be this tasteless thing. You can still have a lot of flavor and still have variety. Just be creative in how you pair things, and try and have different starches also to pair it with, and different veggies, etc. Then you know that you're sorted.
Okay, that's dope. And do you document some of your meal prep? Like, do you shoot yourself doing meal prepping meals?
I actually haven't done that in a while. Yeah, I haven't
Um,
shot anything like that. Maybe that's something that I can kind of do, just so people can see how, like, a different approach of meal prepping that they can do. Um, I'm making a mental note of video ideas, because I've been quiet on YouTube. I have so many videos that are waiting to be edited, but I just
uh,
haven't got into them. But yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely can do
okay.
something like that.
Okay, last 2 minutes. We've got one more question here. What do you think about Herbalife? This is from Uspelele Undev.
Mm.
What's your take on
Um,
Herbalife?
There was actually a dietitian that I follow on Instagram who did a complete review on Herbalife. I haven't reviewed Herbalife personally myself, but there's certain products that I can speak of. For example, some of their shakes, they're not very high in energy or fats, so you might find that you get quite hungry even after having the shakes. So I mean, I don't I don't necessarily have like a proper review that I've done on Herbalife. I know that there are specific brands within it that maybe you shouldn't try and go for your weight loss teas or whatever if they have that kind of range, or detox tea, because those kinds of things do have ingredients that are not healthy for your kidneys. Um, so it's better to kind of stay away from those. But in general, I like the fact that they are trying to be promoting health, but yeah, there's a lot of um, things about the products that I think make dietitians a little bit concerned as to whether we should promote it or not. So it's not
Yeah.
something that you see me promote. If you are someone who does Herbalife and it's a business for you and it's making money for you, then I get that. I understand that we all need to make our money. But I think because of that, there's also a lot of emotion that comes behind it, just like any kind of diet, because it's so personal to people. So I always want to like make it clear, like I'm not trying to show. This isn't my opinion. This is just from looking at the actual products. So yeah, it's really it's something that I would like to review, but it's difficult because of that connection people have with it and what it's done for them. So that's that kind of there's dietitians I know whose careers have and lives have been put in question for questioning Herbalife itself. So I've always been a little bit more neutral. Even though there are things where I'm like, okay, this is not the healthiest or whatever. So yeah, I think yeah, it's something I'll develop an opinion on it when I can take the backlash, when I know I can take the backlash. Otherwise, for now, very very neutral.
Okay. Okay, cool. We've come to the end of our hour together. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Tomorrow we're on day 4. If you're tuning in and you're doing the 21 with us, we're on day 4 tomorrow. So day 4 is usually run day or endurance skip day. Just for those who are new and they're tuning in and they want to know what's on the menu for tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow either we go out for a run or you skip for a set amount of time, and this depends on your fitness level, right? Beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And then we rest on Saturday. So yeah, 4 days in. Hopefully everyone is having a great time. Thanks once again, Azi, for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks
I
for
really
having
had
me.
a good time and I've learned a lot. Yeah, I don't know if you have any last words to share with our audience when it comes to diet and nutrition.
I guess the only last words I would say is enjoy food, but also try pack a punch with veg. I'd also say there's a lot of dietitians out there that you can follow that also give just generalized nutrition advice. Like myself, my Instagram is Azzy_boy. I also do things on Health with Azzy for my YouTube. So just that can be really useful if you have a lot of questions. And yeah, just if you want to find me and you want to do any like kind of virtual consults, you can email me. My email is azziweboyrd@gmail.com, or if you didn't catch that, you can go and check it out on my Instagram page. That you just click on the email button. Yeah, but otherwise, that's all. That's all from me, from my side.
Okay, cool. Good night, everyone. Have a good night. Till next week, Thursday. Peace.
Bye. Bye, everyone.